before y'all go viral. You know what I'm saying?
Try it. We're gonna try for
Trying to
sure.
keep Grandpa from going viral. That might be more than the world can stand.
Yeah, he is going viral. But we are on episode 2, and we have a special guest here, Dan Reed. And so, Preacher Dan, School Board Dan, Coach Dan. So we've got questions. My first question is, why do you coach? How did you get into coaching?
Man, I don't know. I always wanted to be a coach. Like most kids grow up and they want to play. I was the I was the opposite, man. I always wanted to be the coach. And then I remember a Nintendo game when I was a kid was Double Dribble, and I
Mm,
would pretend I was coaching. Then they come out with video games where you could do the coaching mode,
mm,
and I would always be the coach. I don't know. I've just liked it. I really only wanted to coach baseball. That's the only really, and to this day, I say I probably know more about baseball than I do basketball, but it's worked out the other way. Uh, I don't know. It's just something I always loved to do. Man, there's nothing more fun to me than game night and you're coaching a group of kids, and I've always had the. I'm not the greatest X's and O's guy you'll ever meet for sure, but I could always motivate kids to play,
yeah,
and that I just love it. I mean, I do it for free,
yeah,
and you deal with parents and all that, and it's still for free. But I don't know. Just always wanted to. I guess is
yeah.
the best way to put it.
That's the weird thing about me is like I love playing and
But,
I enjoy playing so much, but it's weird that I like coaching a little bit more than I like playing. It's more, I think coaching's way more stressful than it was playing, because playing you just go out there and
right.
you just play. Whereas coaching, you've got to remember plays. Whereas you and me look at each other and we got a kid that's been sitting next to us for 5 minutes and we didn't realize it,
Right.
and then we're calling plays, and then you remember a play that you were like, oh, we should have ran that, and then I'm looking at you like, oh my god, like why didn't I remember? Why
Right.
didn't I
Right.
remember that? And so we've been coaching together the last couple of years, and I've really enjoyed it, because it's like I needed to learn before I could actually. People are like, oh, you can be a head coach. I'm like, no, I don't think I'm ready to be a head coach yet.
Right.
And so being with you and being with Robbie and stuff like that has really helped me to learn that I love to play, but I really like to coach, and it's fun. It's
And
a fun
I
thing to
think
do.
it's the challenge of it, man. It's just fun to, you're with those kids every day,
Mm,
and then you get parents having, and I was a parent of three
yeah.
good players, um, three successful all through high school, and I know now way more than I did like when Lacey first came up, our oldest. That I've said this forever. Junior high is the hardest level because a lot of these parents, it's their first baby that's going to play for the school,
Mhm.
and if they don't get to play, then their career's over,
Yeah.
and they're kind of nuts about it. And I tell my kids, I can communicate to my kids. I can't have a parent meeting every day. But man, Lacey didn't play in her sixth grade, seventh grade, and didn't really start playing significant time until she was in eighth grade. Then set the bench her ninth grade year, a little bit her sophomore year, and then scores 1,000 points, 11, 12, and we go to state tournament twice. And you get to be in the gym and see that happen, and explain to these kids that, man, you just keep fighting, you'll find a way to get on the floor, and you get to experience that. Now, I mean, my first year, Audrina Beard, and I nearly cut her. I told her all the time. I mean, she was down not to make the team.
Yeah.
By tournament time, she's starting, and I can't take her off the floor. She's the best rebounder I got. But as a coach, you get to see that every day, and you get to go in there with those kids. And man, I'll be honest, there's so many weirdos and people you don't want around your kids that I I just think I take it as my responsibility. Like, well, let me have them,
Yeah.
man. Let me coach them. I'll be good to them, and I tell them every day I love them. And I said, even if parents are mad at me, I promise you, I got the best interest for you. And man, it's rewarding too. And I've been so fortunate that I got into coaching at Unionville uh, right when this thing took off.
Yeah. Right at the peak.
Good night. We've been, I've been fortunate enough to set it state tournament 5 times, and but just the right time with the right kids. And it's rewarding, it's fun. And even my first year at middle school, we won 4 games. And that's still one of my favorite teams I've ever coached in my life because good night, they'd get after you. We weren't any good. We weren't any good at all. But man, that team worked. And now that same bunch is fixing to have to take over the high school program. We're going to see. You weren't very good then, but you've worked. Now you practice against MJ and Haley and Zoe and even Witt the year before. You know. So, and I guess in coaching you just get to see that inside information that people don't get to see.
Yeah, that's the big thing that I see is like parents don't understand like, oh, why are you playing that kid? Well, it's like you didn't see him at practice yesterday.
Yeah.
Like you don't see Alyssa White getting every rebound in practice and scoring in practice where she might not be able to do it in a game, but she's getting every rebound.
You got to give her a shot at it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that that parents are like, well, why'd you not play her tonight? It's like, well, she didn't do very good at practice.
She's practiced awful all week, and things like that, or she's had a terrible attitude at practice, or she hung out in the locker room for 30 minutes while we worked, and they don't know that. And by the way, I'm not gonna go text mama every practice, hey, your kids don't get to play Tuesday night much because their attitude's terrible this week. They got to work through that, man. And the difference was, once, like I said before, like once Lacey went through, now Haley's coming. I was so much different. Like, well, Haley didn't play like tonight. Well, Haley did something. Will turns it over 3 times against Richland, and you're playing then, and all of a sudden my ankle hurts again. I know from a coaching standpoint, watching like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
But and listen, I'm not against parents. I get it. That's your baby. She's in your house or he's in your house all the time. You want her to be the next 1,000-point scorer, the next Justin Stallings, Alex Mitchell, Will Reed, all these B. Whitaker. You can be Kobe Pride. But, man, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're Davy Barnes. And Davy Barnes is going to score you 500 and D up everybody in the gym, and she's just as important. And, man, parents, I love them, but it is what it is. And by the way, it's just gonna get worse. That's what really scares me is it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, and I see like every good team we've ever had those role players that nobody talks about a whole lot, but they were super like that Fab Five group and them girls, the twins, Aaron, Davy, but you also at the top end you had Pierce and you had Lacey,
right?
And so it's like okay. But like my group, Tyrese is massive. Tyrese is most athletic guy in the gym.
How many passes that dude get a hand on?
It's
that
crazy.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, coming off the bench, Jack Bailey.
Oh,
he could have been an all-state player on any other team, but for our group, he was coming off the bench.
And he proved it the next year.
Yeah.
And he proved it the next year that he could out-rebound. The thing that made Jack so special was he could guard the point guard or he could guard the 5. It didn't matter. And, the Fab Five, I think one person that gets left out because she's not really a member of the Fab Five is Aaron. The Fab Five was twins, Davy, Lacey, and Sarah because they were all seniors.
Yeah.
Go back, man, I go back. And NFHS is wonderful because now you can go back and watch 2016 in the state tournament. You can watch it. And, man, the thing that Aaron did, Aaron passed the ball better than anybody. We ran the high-low. Well, the reason the high-low was so good is because Aaron could throw it. Some kids can't make that pass, as we saw all year.
Yeah.
We could not throw it from the high post to wide.
Yeah.
She rebounded her tail off. She always defended the best player, so Lacey would stay out of foul trouble. It's stuff like that, and instead of let's be jealous because Lacey might have got more points, let's stop and say, man, look what Aaron did for us. Good night.
Yeah.
And Tyrese and Jack Bailey and. Man, Will senior year, I can think of times Corey Paterick come off, hit big shots, things like that. But instead of just looking how sweet of a shot Stratton had, remember that shot Jacob Cooper hits in the sub-state.
Yeah, in the corner.
Good night, and we're all begging him, don't shoot it.
Don't shoot it. Don't shoot
Bottom. I've got that picture forever in my man cave of him shooting that shot. Like, if that don't go, we're gonna murder you.
And that's the and that's the great thing about that group right there, that boys group that made it to the tournament was they were all the only one that started was Will. The rest of them came off the bench. They were in the second group the year before, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're not gonna be as good." It was like those guys probably had better chemistry than we did.
I think that's what made them so special.
That core of them, that
man,
Evan, Jack, and Will, they had that chemistry that was just
they
so
made
unmatched.
passes that was unbelievable because they knew where the other one would be. Again, what made them phenomenal, and I love to go back and watch them. Man, I try to walk on the treadmill 2 miles a day, and I'll throw in an old basketball game from somewhere. And I'm telling you, what made it is if you switch a ball screen on that team, it didn't matter. Will could go the 5. Will could guard the 1. Well, so could Strat. So could Bailey. And Bailey, what's so amazing about Bailey was he didn't just guard the 1. He pressured the 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, he got up.
Yeah.
And man, that team. And people forget they're struggling. Man, they've lost 7 or 8 games. They get beat. Man, they get beat by Marshall County. They get beat by Nolensville. It's not looking good. And all of a sudden, they say, I was not there. I was quarantined for stupid contact tracing, and I couldn't go to the Nolensville game. And they said in the locker room that Jack Bailey said, we're not losing again. And they didn't till the state tournament.
Yeah.
So that's right. And people don't realize the importance of, you got a team like 2016. Well, that 17, 18 team, they practiced against them every stinking day.
Yeah.
And that's why we won the district, I don't remember what it was, 3 out of 4 years right there. Because Haley and them come. So you got Haley, Kizzy, Carla.
Yeah.
And then the Farrell kid moves in, and we're not supposed to be very good, and we win the district.
Which
and double A.
I'd have loved to have her.
Yeah, for 4 years.
Yeah.
We win the district double A, and that's because Haley and them had to guard Davey, Lacey, Sarah, and all them.
Yeah.
And I think this year's the Vikings team coming. I mean, obviously, we lost 3,000 points in 2 kids. We lost Zoe, who matured probably about Zoe, most improved kid I ever watched from freshman to senior. Played the position. Addison Brothers did everything right. Not flashy, but she got it done. So we're coming with 1 starter and 4 kids that didn't get to play. But I'm telling you, they practiced against this group. And they're going to be all right. I think early on, it's going to be a struggle. But, man, the thing is, when you get a culture of winning, you figure out how to win.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in a culture of losing, you're going to figure out how to lose.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they'll win.
Yeah.
And you're in a district you can compete in. And I look forward to it. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be like that first year of junior high. Like, nobody's expecting nothing out of you. You won no games last year. Well, let's get after them.
And I think that bunch that we had, that 8th grade bunch, they're ready to go.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah, and I think I think it's more or less not that they're like ready to go, but they're hungry. They know that their expectation levels are high, and they've got to go in and compete, and it's not going to be easy. And though they're last on the depth chart, no matter what, no matter how good you were in middle school, you're last, and you've got to work your way up. But I think that that group of girls is very competitive, and I think they'll be up for it. So.
And I think they're, like I was thinking the other day, the 16 team was some of the meanest kids, competitors, and mean. I mean, just be honest, they were just mean. I said this team would never do what they did because I thought they were too nice.
Yeah.
And they proved you can be that nice of kids and still do it. I feel like that 8th grade bunch is the same kind of nice. They're just really top shelf kids. I think White can get nasty if you need to, but they're just really good kids. And they proved me wrong. This group here, I just thought, man, we just ain't mean enough.
Yeah.
But they could get mean if they needed to.
Yeah, that bumping through the lane, I wouldn't have. I'd have cut one time and got clipped by one of them, and I'd have been like,
well, Shelby won a game the first possession, and I can't remember what game it was.
I think it was Huntland.
Was it?
At
That's
home.
right.
At
and
home.
They had beat us over there, and she bumped their post player, and it rattled her teeth, and she didn't want to come in there the rest of the night.
She never went back in there.
That's beautiful. That's what basketball's. And by the way, if they call a foul right there, they shouldn't. It's totally legal. But if they do, good.
It's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Damage is done, but she don't want no more of that.
She didn't.
And back when we had Freebird, good night, strongest kid I've ever. You hit her with a pad, it's like a brick wall. She'd go in and bump a few kids from MTCS. And that was over. Yeah. Game's over. So you either got hit by Lacey, Aaron, or Freebird. Take your pick. And
Hard pass.
Haley got good at bumping people, and she'd take an elbow to the head for it, but she would, she would get
That back row with Shelby and Haley and MJ. That was just I watched a girl one time cut. I watched a film with Haley. A girl cut, got bumped by MJ, got bumped by Shelby, and then got hit by Haley on the back end. And I was like, I would have never cut again.
And by the way, that's the whole timing of that play. Whatever play they're running a guard through, now this point guard's stuck with it, and this girl's playing ping pong, pinball off our post players. It disrupts everything if you're a good physical basketball team.
Oh yeah.
Now, the thing about the team that put us out, that's that zone, man. That stinking zone.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a shot off against a zone. That's telling you how good a zone they had, how long they were, how athletic
they were. Freakishly athletic. Especially what I thought was really impressive was no matter how, like York was a really good shooting team. Right. You know, I would say we're a really good shooting team. And they zoned both those teams in a 2-3 zone and gave up no skip threes or anything like that. Because those back two girls, one's an MTSU commit, okay, but even the other girl was just as athletic as her and could cover so much ground, and they were putting so much ball pressure that it was crazy.
We had to say in the scout, like, you can't throw a skip to Harrison side.
Yeah.
You throw a skip, she's gonna go shoot a layup. Yeah. So against the zone, everybody knows you turn it, you run a girl through, throw the skip back, you got a guard getting a shot. Yeah. Well, not against them.
No.
So anyway, still it's a great year for them, and you get beat by the defending state champions who go on to win it again.
Yeah.
Phenomenal year.
It's a good year.
Yeah.
You talk about a culture of winning.
Mm-hmm.
That you think that started with Allison and Misty and you coming together as coaches, or where do you think that comes from specifically?
Man, the culture was losing for so long, and I think Allison, he said he sit and learn from me, and I'm 10 or 15 years older than Allison, but I learned a ton from Allison, especially defense. I've always been an offensive guy. Honestly, I think when it started to turn is you knew you had this group coming. We knew that, and here's the crazy thing, it didn't involve Lacey. I mean, there's always a kid somewhere in a group that you don't think.
It was Milliken. Forever.
It was Milliken. It was going to be Aaliyah Seagroves.
Yeah.
It was Sarah Pierce, the twins who could not score.
Mm-hmm.
But man, you can't coach speed. And Davey, but the best player we have is Jamie DeMontgomery. We were going to build the entire thing around Jamie. And so I started coaching them in AAU, and we would have to play up to the level of Jamie's age because we could not compete without Jamie. And we were winning. We were, I'll never forget, we were 9, and we beat Sheville's 12U team because Jamie had about 40. I mean, I'll still say this. Best girl athlete I ever coached, Jamie DeMontgomery. And, man, phenomenal. And so I think Allison included, I had no idea I'd be on the bench with them. I had no idea. We just knew this was the group. This was them. And we played them. We just know how good junior pro they were. They got into junior high. Davis moves in. Everything just lined up. Davis moves in because the one thing I was terrible at was teaching man-to-man. He got them going man-to-man, and then they got to high school. And the senior class, the timing was just right. That senior class was going out. Yeah. Katie Leverett's it, so now you can filter these kids in to get some playing time. And boy, it's just a perfect storm. But I think, man, it was so hard to get the culture winning because we had to get over the Moore County hump, then the Chapel Hill hump, and then, but I think you've got to get those groups down here. And I think we've done an excellent job since then. I took that group. Steve Simmons has took groups. Now I love what we're doing. That you got Whitaker, you got Lacey, you got Davey, you got these kind of coaches that's been through it.
Yeah.
And Cody's coaching, 5th grade, 7th grade now. So people that's been there know what it takes. We're getting them into 5th grade now, 4th grade, and so by the time they get up there. And now you got these elementary kids coming to the ball games, watching it, and they're seeing this culture.
Yeah.
And now, hey, you play for the Vikings, you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
Where it used to be, we're not very good. Yeah. When's the boys start?
Yeah.
when does the boys? So I think it's a team effort of a lot of different people. I could list you 20 involved, and then these kids staying involved. Davey Barnes coaching the 5th grade team. It's huge.
Yeah.
Man, nobody knows what it's going to take more than Davey. And
Yeah.
I know I was reffing the game, but when we beat Eagle's 6th grade team with that 5th grade team,
Yeah.
Davey being involved, and Sarah would be if she was still in this state. But I think it's just that we're catching them down here. And I'm not saying it's because of me, but I think we're in really good shape that I'm in the middle school because our practices are structured to look exactly like Cody's. So when my 8th graders go up and he says shell, then
Yeah.
let's do this and let's
Yeah.
do this drill. We even do the same drills. They're just going to be able to fall in it. And we've made it a pact between us that any set I run is the same name he runs it. And I even had to change some names so it match his. And man, that's why middle school, when your middle school and your high school is working together like this, and he's coaching the 5th graders now. So he's texting me like, hey man, this kid right here can do this. And so I think it's just a really good culture we've built. And it's done right. Like I have coached, I think 10 seasons, and I've never seen a kid get cussed. I've never heard a cuss word from a coach. There's been tail chewings, but it's also been a pat on their back as soon as they do it the right way. It's just a good culture. The whole thing's just a good culture, honestly.
And I think we see that because we've got a lot of kids moving in.
Yeah.
That aren't from here. I mean, one of our biggest players this year was Haskins, and she's not. I mean, they're not from here. They're from Liberty. And so I think that other people are seeing the culture we're building and that we've built, and they're like, that's a good place to take our kid.
And it really is. I mean, I'm not, you know me, I'm Mr. Union when I bleed purple. But I'll tell you, it's just a good culture from 6th grade to seniors now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put up with mess. You know, if you're going to act like that, I won't have you. From me, the one thing I can't stand, you look at an official after they make a call.
Yeah.
Any kind of cross way, I'm getting. I don't care if it's the worst call in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
You shut your face and you go the other end. Let me yell at him.
Yeah.
Let me say something. If y'all were playing, I think I was coaching. I'm not sure. You might have been. Did you go with us when we went down to Nashville and played in that tournament? And I coached. It was Cord and Tyrese.
No, I wasn't him.
He wasn't there. I'll never forget this. We were playing a team that was way better than us, and we knew that. And Will, younger than anybody else, but he was my point guard, and I tried to play Alex at the 2, and this kid just mauls Will, steals it, shoots a layup. Will turns around, looks at the official with his palms up, and I went absolutely timeout full, and I didn't care who talked. I guess Brian was helping. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever was helping me talk to the rest of them, but I had Will. We're not going to do that. Well, I know he got fouled. He got killed, but I can't stand that. I mean, NBA, that's why I won't even turn it on.
Yeah.
Every call's that. And
Yeah.
you see it more in high school.
Yeah.
Look at the national championship in college basketball. Girls.
Yeah.
You know, it cost them. Now, I don't think she deserved it.
Yeah.
But
there's stuff leading up to it that the why she got the tech for something like that, and everybody looks at it, it's like, oh, why? It's because she was arguing with the ref 3 plays.
Yes.
You know, the first half of the game. You started first half. Those refs are sensitive.
Go back and
100%.
watch any film of a middle school or high school game for community this year, and find me one time we had somebody look at an official and say something.
Yeah.
You won't find it.
No, you won't.
You'll also find something else that's our pet peeve. Jump ball. They blew the whistle.
Yeah.
Let go of it.
Let it go.
They're not. They don't award you points because you ended up with the ball. It just
Don't matter.
drives me nuts,
Don't
man.
matter.
Go in there with class. Act like somebody.
Yeah.
The officials are going to blow it sometimes. I'm going to blow it.
Yeah.
You going to yell at me? I mean, I blew it at Eagle. We lost.
Yeah.
I know. I watched that film. I said, man, you can't coach a worse game than I did. But I admit it. You go on, right?
It's no different than that championship game
Yeah.
when we're letting them hold the ball. and everybody in the stands is calling us everything but good coaches, and we're just sitting there, and you're looking at me, and I'm going, well, I'm gonna trust you.
Yeah.
Well, if you say this is the right play, I'm gonna stand by it, and we're gonna roll with it. And what happened? We got a shot at the end. We scored, and girl gets a tip in, and we lose. But I mean, it felt. I mean, everything that went into that game went perfectly. But during that 2 minutes, that girl's dribbling that ball. Everybody up in them stands are screaming at us. Just, what are you doing?
Standing up, waving, and I'm telling you,
Pointing at the scoreboard like we don't see it.
yeah, we're down 1, about 2.5, 3 to go. We're on about a 12-0 run. Their best player has just checked back in.
Yeah.
So I can't press anymore. They're saying press. Like, if you press this kid, she scored 1,000 points in middle school.
Yeah.
She's going to dribble through our press and go slap the backboard. The reason we're in this game is because we've kept her out of the paint. And here's my thing about holding the ball. If I'm playing a team I'm capable of beating by 15 in 3 minutes, let's go. But I'm playing a team that's capable of beating me by 20 in 3 minutes if she gets going. So if she wants to condense this down to 1-2 possessions, that's our favor.
Yeah.
Absolutely our favor. By the way, we got 2 5-second calls on a bad shot.
Yeah.
And got everything to where we wanted and hit the shot to win it. Made her take an absolutely atrocious shot, and a girl throws it over her head, off the top of the backboard, and goes in.
It happens.
But you're right. I mean, and here's the thing. I've been at games where I would have probably been one of them parents like, what are we doing? Let's go. Because I don't. I'm in the stands. I hadn't scouted that team for 3 years.
Yeah.
I hadn't been at practice. I don't know the strengths of every kid we got. Let me ask you this. Parents that want to scream and yell and raise your hands, who you going to guard her with? Out of my squad, tell me. Now, there's some parents going, my kid could have stopped it. Well, listen, nobody stopped it.
Nobody.
They won the state, by the way. They went to the James C. Hale and won it because nobody can stop that kid. Some kids you just can't stop. You're going to have to go zone. Will's senior year, you're a junior year. We can't stop Jones. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
The kid dribbled with one hand. Well, when they were killing the clock, your senior year, the kid's a freshman. He's got one hand.
Yeah.
This hand's hurt.
Can't catch him.
This dude dribbles between our basketball team, and we cannot touch him.
Yeah.
We can't not foul him. We can't touch him.
Yeah.
And there's parents that'll say, well, we should just put Will on him. Dude.
No.
We can't go man against the East.
We double teamed him, and he just dribbled right around us.
So,
like, whatever.
A lot of times, they don't get it, but I've been there where I don't get it. So, I love them. I'm for them. And I've talked to every one of those guys since. But heat of the battle, it is what it is.
For sure.
I had Allison so mad at me one year because she held the ball for the last 4 minutes up 4 or 5 points. And I was screaming, we can't do that. Well, we won the game. I went and apologized. Like, I'm an idiot. I need to sit down. I don't know the scout. I don't know these things.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but look, they paid their $5. They want to come yell at me and yell at man, do it.
I feel like it's almost helpful. Like that just adds another aspect to it. It's just seems like you teach emotional control more than anything.
We're big on it. Just we have a saying. Don't pee on the floor. That's what I taught my middle school kids. They know it. It's wrote on the mirror in there. And that is when that moment gets big, you don't just freak out. And this team was so good at not doing that. And because some nights the fans are nuts. They're going nuts. And at high school too. You got to remain, the calmer team's going to win this game. You're going to control your emotions. You're not going to yell at officials. You're not going to turn and look at your uncle and aunt who's yelling at you. You're just going to play. And then when I get all in you, you're going to look at me, you're going to take it, and you're going to say, yes, sir. Yeah. And then we're going to go on. And then you can ask Alex, I am the absolute first one to hug on a kid when they do it right.
Yeah.
And I'm also the one that I don't believe in, you had a bad night, you just go in that locker room and you just kill them. I'm not big on that. I might go in there and say, here's where we're at. This is bad. We got to get better. But I don't just want to keep beating them down to where they hate the sport. That was bad. I think we had a rough night over at Coffee County Middle.
Yeah.
It was a really good team, and we got tired and they shot the nets off of it and we got in them a little bit. But they responded. I think we won 8 in a row after that or something. So
and blew out some teams that we weren't at beat us the week before, and we blew out a couple of teams after that. But
yeah, but it is. I like that emotional control. I never had a name for it, but that is absolutely. It has to happen, and it needs to happen more in boys basketball. But I'm telling you that East Nashville Pearl Cone game at Community. We're not used to that kind of basketball in our gym.
It's the most intense basketball.
And they're just like it's normal, and we're nervous as we can be.
Yeah.
And people's on the floor, people's taunting them all the way to the locker room.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, we don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
And they're normal. They just walk out of the gym like, well, all right, let's go.
That was worth it.
Another day.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah. I feel like the biggest thing, those kids, fast forward 20 years, they're going to remember those instances in their own life. Like, that, not that basketball doesn't matter, but that's definitely going to, I don't know, you have the same impact not only in basketball, but in preaching too, I'd say. Just in the community, you have the same leadership, or people look to you for leadership.
I like to think so, and I know I really wish I could say, man, everybody likes me, but it's not true. I've got a bunch of people that don't, and a lot of it has to do with sports. It just honestly does. Playing time will get people not to like you, and AAU in the summer, back when I did that, would really get people not to like you because, we've traveled all the way down here, and it's tough. Man, there's nothing easy. I've got 3 children. Lacey's teaching and coaching. Haley's teaching. She don't want to coach nothing. She was never the sports lover that we were. She loved soccer more than basketball, which drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. Really good softball player, and then didn't play no more. But Will, he wants to teach and coach, and I worry about that, man, because it's getting worse and worse, parent-wise. Now I think we're down here. We're in good old Unionville, and it's not as bad. But it's just getting harder and harder to deal with issues. And that's why you got volunteer coaches. I mean, I think the biggest weapon I've got in coaching the middle school team at Unionville is I don't get paid to do it. Being a school board member, I cannot make any money on supplements. So I took a huge, I would have got 3 or 4 supplements a year I helped with the boys too. And, but to my defense, like my 5 I put out there and these 2 I played, I'm not kin to none of them. None of them's my nieces. None of them's my nephews. Yeah. I don't have children on the team. I'm playing the best we got. I'm doing this for free, by the way. I'm putting all this time in it for the program, and I think that's good. I think that's good that I can use that to my defense.
Yeah.
And listen, if you coach the team, or Whit coach the team, or I coach, we all probably come up with a different rotation.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. There's some kids you might have played more minutes than I did. There's some kids that you might have played, I've been like, you're out of your mind. But it's just life of coaching.
Yeah.
But I hope so. I hope I've impacted them. I hope I was really tight with that group that'll be juniors, Izzy and Bailey, who don't play anymore, but because that was my first team with them, and then this group here. But I hope you're right. I hope it's somebody they can trust in, come back to, and say, hey, I'm going through this, going through that, or whatever. And I want to be that for them. I certainly do. And the sad thing is you're going to have kids that just hate your guts the rest of their days because they feel like they should have been playing back in so-and-so. Here's the thing. Edmondson's one of my favorite people in the world. That dude cut me.
Yeah.
He cut me in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
I don't hate the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 5'0" and 200 and something. All right. Was I good enough to make that team? Yes, but he told me my attitude was terrible. Well, back then I thought he's nuts. But the truth is, my attitude was terrible.
Dad was the same way. Dad still talks to him every time he sees him.
So, I think it's even the ones they'll get over it at some point. But it's a fresh wound right now, man. I didn't get to play, and I played for you 3 years, and I didn't have one kid that just was lazy. You got kids that worked hard and just didn't get a lot of playing time. But man, how many times did I use the speech of, use a Lacey in an example.
Yeah.
Just keep hammering.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said forever, Lacey ran like an ostrich with a broke ankle. Man, she was so uncoordinated and just not very good. And then one day, you realize how long your arms are and how big you are, and all of a sudden stuff starts working, and you're a ball player. So just keep hammering, keep playing. Let's see what happens.
And so we'll change the subject here. Why did you become a school board member? That to me that was just so random when
Yeah.
my mom told me about it, and I was like, why would you're already to say you're already in the spotlight down here enough
Right.
to put yourself being like, now I'm the voice of the people down here. And so I when you look at it that way, it makes a little bit more sense.
Right.
But tell us about how how you made the decision to join the school board.
So I've always loved politics again because I just love to pay attention to the elections when I say I like politics. I certainly don't like Washington politics today. So Amy and I talked, and of course Amy Martin was on the school board. Good night, close to 30 years. I don't remember exact amount of number, and I told her I had some interest in it, and then she told me when she would retire, she'd let me know. So basically, because I absolutely, and I'll say it again, love Unionville. I'm from here. Daddy graduated here. I graduated here. My kids graduated here. I live here. Um, on the school board of 9, uh, you've got 2 members that represent your district. Now you got one that represent District 3. That's where the school sits. But there's also another member. It used to be Ron Aycock and Amy. And so Ron's district, Mr. Aycock's district, is just down the road, and it kind of represents Cascade and Unionville. That's Brian Cruz now. But you've got 2 voices for Unionville out of 9 people. Um, my point was we need a voice fighting for Unionville at all times on what we need, what we don't need, that type of thing. And so uh, it intrigued me, and I got in it. And I didn't know what exactly I was getting into, but man, I enjoy it. I have to field a lot of emails, a lot of calls, complaints, this and that and the other. But man, here's my thing. If I wanted to do something else, let's say I wanted to run for commission next time or whatever, I won't leave it until I know somebody loves Unionville as much as I do that's going to go fight for them. When you ask any member on that board, they're going to tell you that dude loves him some Unionville. And the first thing we had to do is fight for the wing. We built a school and we didn't finish it. Uh, they left off a wing, and then they built Cascades with both wings. Well, we're going to compete with Cascade and everything. And that was the first. That was right when I came in that they were talking about building it, and ended up next fall we got it.
Yeah.
So I did it just to be, like you said, I think a voice of the people and these teachers and our schools to be the mouth for Unionville to say, wait a minute, don't forget us here. We need this or we need that, and for the county, these kids. I mean, Bedford County's where I'm from. That's who I'm for, and as much as I want to beat Cascade in athletics, I hope that their ACT scores are great, just like ours. I hope we send kids to the workforce that's worth having. I enjoy it. Crazy enough, I enjoy it. It doesn't pay anything, but man, just to fight for Unionville, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's kind of like the coach. You don't get paid for that either, but your why is definitely not money. So there's the
No.
reason you're there.
No, it's certainly not. And the school board members do get a stipend a month, but I assure you it's not much. And then you give up your supplements to do. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You can't drive a school bus. I mean, you could. You just have to volunteer it. You just can't be paid because you're already paid.
That's weird.
It's kind of weird, but I'm telling you, if anybody wants to run for school board for money, you're in bad shape.
Yeah.
If
Not
you want to coach for money, even if they pay you, you're in bad shape. And you have to love it, and I do. I love both. You pastor church, you're on the school board, you're the operations manager of a trucking company with 100 trucks. You know what I mean? You coach the middle school team, you're assistant in the high school team. and you think, why don't you ease up? And I'm like, man, I'd be bored to death. I would be. I'd go to every baseball game that I can. High school softball, I'm usually there. Middle school softball, I'm going. But again, I love Unionville. I'm gonna go. My kids are grown, man. I ain't going home to take care of babies no more. So I'm out there and rooting for them, and that's what I like to do.
For sure. You got any more questions?
I can come up with one for sure.
I've got one. So we asked Papa two questions. What is the worst advice you've ever been given, and what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Good night. The worst advice I've ever been given. The first thing that comes to my mind is when you're playing baseball, the worst advice we've ever give kids is tell them to bat with their elbow up. You ever notice? Go to one right now. Hey, they'll say, hey, get your elbow up. And you know, watch them. Just go to the next coach pitch game, and every kid in there, and some daddy that never played ball in his life will holler, get your elbow up. And so a kid, now by the way, if you're going to swing, the first thing that happens is the elbow should go down. It doesn't matter. You should be like this. That's some of the worst advice I was ever given. I mean, I'd have to think on that question. There's certainly been some bad advice that I listened to and did. The best advice I ever got was, I preached on it this morning, you were there, was when I was about to get married and just turned 20 years old, and my Aunt Dottie just told me simply, don't leave. Just, you got to fight. You're going to have to, a marriage is a fight. And hopefully not with her. It's just, you got to work at it all the time to make a marriage work. It's gotta, and so I would say don't leave is the best I ever got. Man, I don't know. Some of the worst advice I listened to back in, I think one of the biggest regrets in my life is when I got out of high school, I wanted to teach and coach. I wanted to coach Cornersville high school boys. That was my dream job. They were awful. Had lost like 60-something games and in a row. They were bad, and I just thought, you know, you're so conceited. I know so much. Man, I could go to Cornersville and win. Well, it ended up a guy did go over there and win, but I just wasn't focused enough, and ended up just dropping out of college after about 6 or 8 weeks. And boy, listen, I ended up having to go back to school, and I did, and then I went to seminary, and I've got my degrees, but I struggled a lot, having to struggle with young kids growing up because of that terrible decision I made. I could have done that, and and I'm sure somebody advised me to do it, or encouraged me. Yeah, man, you don't need that. So that's some bad advice. And by the way, anybody, I was telling a daddy this the other day, and anybody's got a senior in high school right now that says they don't want to go to college. Well, that's fine if you go to TCAT. Just learn something. Man, TCAT's great. You're going to go make some money quick.
For sure.
Go do HVAC. Go do plumbing. Go do welding. You're going to make good money quickly. But if they can't decide, go get those 2 years for free. Man, go to Motlow for nothing.
Yeah.
And give yourself, and just take general education and figure it out. And man, about 90% of that you can do online. It's crazy not to take those 2 years.
Yeah.
Unless you've just got something lined up, I get it. But man, what a time to be alive for a senior.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Columbia State, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. That's fine. And people I just say that's fine. Don't tell them what they need to do. They don't know what they want to do. Well, go get general studies done. You got 2 years to figure it out. And by the way, I get my associates in general studies, and then I decide to go to TCAT and become a plumber. Great.
Make a lot of money.
You're going to make a lot of money, plus you've got an associate's that if you ever do decide, now I want to teach, you're 2 years into it.
Yeah.
And there's so many government programs now, the school system will pay you to go to school to finish that thing so you can teach now. All right, well, what if you go and you get a degree and you figure out that ain't what I want to do? Well, good. Lacey did it. She got a degree in accounting, a master's in business, and she teaches 7th grade math. So she's got to go back to school So you leave a profession where you're gonna make 100,000. You go take this job. Well, because of the requirements, now you got to go back to school so you can have this job that pays half of what you had over there. But she loves it.
Yeah.
So, man, I'll tell you, the best advice I can give somebody is, and it's biblical, is if you enjoy what you do, you're blessed as you can be. If you just enjoy what you do, because nothing's worse than hating what you do every day. And so, trucking is not my favorite thing in the world to do. It's been really good to me, but I so enjoy this, and that can balance out.
Yeah.
It can balance out the rest of it.
For sure.
So I don't know. I'll have to get back with you on the worst advice because I'm sure. I hope I've never gave any, but I wouldn't doubt it.
The elbow up one's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
It's true, man.
It's pretty good.
Just go.
It's like
pay
follow
attention.
your shot.
Yeah.
In basketball.
You don't follow your shot. We gotta have a safety somewhere. Listen.
You shoot to make, not shoot to miss.
Follow your shot. You're right. Or the fans, I've always said that there's two things every fan knows about basketball. They know to yell 3 seconds, and they know to yell, call it on both ends. That's the two most used sayings in the gym. Hey, look, it can be halftime, and they both work.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 3 seconds. He's got called on both ends. I mean, it doesn't matter what the game is. It could be the best called game in the world. Somebody could say those, and people around them be like, yeah, that's right.
You're right.
She's been camping. By the way, you know the truth about this? It fires me up because I love post players. Post players is what I coach. The only time a team or parents yell 3 seconds is when they can't guard you. They don't. Worst player in the league standing there for an hour. They don't care. But you get a kid that they can't guard, it's 3 seconds.
They've been camping in there.
Especially if you're a high-low team. Everybody's like, oh, it's 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. No, that's 30 points. That's what that is. And people also don't realize that when the ball hits the rim, it resets the clock, the 3-second clock. And that's just, I love it. I hadn't got to sit in the stands and watch a game. The last game, I sat with my wife in the stands and watched a high school game was we got put out, and it might have been your senior year. It was at Central Magnet.
Yeah, it was.
Was that your senior year?
Oh, you bringing up old.
Well,
you hurting me.
But that's how long ago. Because the next year I started helping.
That's crazy. You weren't on that bench?
Mm-mm.
So it was just Robbie, Steve, and Broyles, I think, Tyler.
I went on. He came to me and said, "Would I like to sit on the bench?" Will's junior year, and I was like, "Man, I can't come to practice. I'm helping with the girls," and he didn't care. And then I helped postseason practice and scouting and that type of thing. So I was 2 years on there, your senior year and Will's senior year. I sat with the boys, and I just told people I had the best seat in the gym. I got to sit right up close and personal, and enjoyed that, man. 2 great runs, and allowed me to sit on the bench again at the state tournament.
And I think I always credit those runs, or those 2 runs, is like all those guys were from here, and we grew up like we were all friends, but we grew up watching that girls team.
Yeah.
And so when we, full circle back to the winning culture stuff, we firsthand got to watch those girls go to the state tournament. We were all there, and we got to experience it and watch it, and we were just like, that's what we want to be.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Will had a sister on the team. I had a sister on the team. So we were drug everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we had a personal relationship with that group of girls. And so, but we also got to see how hard they worked. And so I think that really helped us. And we just kind of were like, we hadn't done nothing in 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that was like, all right, it's our senior year. We've got to ramp up competitiveness and stuff like that. And then that year after me was the year that you saw the results of all that stuff we had done for those last 3 years.
Yeah. And then Haley's team this year, MJ, Haley, Zoe, Addison, Shelby. There's pictures all over Facebook where those were kids holding up signs at Murphy Center for Sarah Lacey Davy twins. So they grew up watching that team too. And I think it was Haley at the banquet said, that team put a spark in us. And listen, I get criticized a lot, and rightfully so, that I constantly talk about that 15-16 team. And I do. But man, they were the team that got the entire program.
They
over the hump.
started it.
And a team that feared nobody and a team that the community loved. And I do know that you got to say, well, hey man, quit comparing everybody to 16. And I get that because hey, let's talk about this squad, and I
Yeah.
agree with that. But even with Will's state tournament team, with Jack Bailey and Evan and those, and your sub-state team, those teams, I agree. The jump start was here. The
Yeah.
jump start was no doubt with that bunch because we'd never been there.
Yeah.
I mean, we had made the sub-state back with Kobe Pride, Tanner, and that bunch.
Yeah, Darian.
But
Allen.
we also knew going to Mount Pleasant wasn't going to work out for us.
Yeah.
99, John Martin and that bunch, they made it. But we knew DCA was not going to allow us to go any further. We've had teams here and there. Girls, we had never.
Yeah.
We had never been past region semis. I'm sorry, region quarters. Because you get to region semis, yes, you got to win region semis. We had never won a region semi game. So you go from 1925 to 1997. You've got 2 district championships. That's it. 1989, 1997. And then from 13 to 23, you've got 6 district titles, 3 region titles, 4 sub-states, 3 state tournaments. And that team set the tone. And man, listen, winning is contagious, and so is losing.
Yeah.
Losing's contagious. And listen, I think our boys are gonna get back. They're gonna get I'm not saying state tournament, but back on track. They're gonna be all right. It was a tough year.
And I see, and that's kind of where, like, I think there's a gap. There's a gap between that group that was like, those seniors this year were my freshmen,
Mm-hmm.
but that group, our core group now, they didn't have Will in them. They didn't have us. Their seniors were Stratton.
Yeah.
Which had been a part of those teams.
Yeah.
But you need more than just one to really, put a paint an image of what it's supposed to be like. And so I think having Will come be a part of the coaching staff, having me there, and Robbie's already been through all that stuff, that we're gonna put that back into them, and also seeing that girls team.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody says, there's always a little bit of jealousy between a boys and girls team,
No doubt.
especially if one's being more successful than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of those things where those guys saw them girls like, oh, they Final Four? Oh, we didn't
By
think
the
they were
way,
that.
your boys region just got a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's no longer Pearl, East, Whites Creek.
Yeah.
Now it's Summertown, Loretta. More towns like us.
Yeah.
Now it got a lot worse than girls. We'd rather beat Pearl, Conan, East, and girls and not have to play Summertown, Loretta. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're no longer a program that's scared of Loretta. You know, we're a community, and we're as good as anybody in the last 10 years in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we're as successful as anybody. So boys, I think Mackay's healthy.
Yeah.
Number one, you build around Mackay. You got some returners that are going to come. I think next year you're way better.
Yeah, I think we, as long as we hit the ground running, as long as everybody's there healthy, I think that really, I don't think people understood, like, oh, you had a bunch of returners. Yeah, but our best player wasn't there all year.
Right. Yeah.
He was hurt, and like he couldn't be at practice every day because he was doing therapy on his leg.
Yeah.
And so not having him there, because no matter what anybody says, he was the alpha.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy everybody turns to. He's the guy who keeps everybody in check. And so when you don't have a guy that leads you, everybody gets out of line.
Yeah.
And so I think having him back, is good as that whole family is at basketball. That's another one of I call it the royal families.
Yeah.
Of I consider the Reeds a royal family. We've got 2,000 point scorers in our family. You've got 2. They've got 2. And so I mean,
they got the greatest of all time too.
Yeah.
Of athletes.
Yeah.
From community high school.
For sure. Yeah.
Because you go in multiple sports at this point.
Yeah, he was
unbelievable. And if anybody don't know what we're talking about, it's Darian Pride.
Yeah.
They need to remember that name. That dude was dude was the best football player. He was the best basketball player. And then when he played baseball, he was the best baseball player.
Yeah,
and that's phenomenal. But I think the boys will be fine. I think the girls, it's a learning. It's going to be a little rough early. And I was telling a guy last night, I said, the thing is, any team that beats us, they're going to act like they won the World Series. But that is a testament to us. Like,
yeah.
It's a big deal to beat you.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got no returners. They want to beat you.
Yeah.
And that'll just fuel them. I really believe that. But I think by the time February gets here next year, they'll be good.
Yeah.
State tournament good? I don't know, but good.
Yeah.
We'll compete. We'll play.
And that was one thing that Robbie talked about with me about, like, after my group left, everybody was headhunting for us.
Oh, no doubt.
We go 32-2 and we're beating everybody by 30. That next year, Will and them are catching teams that, like, why are they playing so hard?
Dude, Marshall County has that storms the court after they beat Will and them senior year.
It's crazy.
And I'm standing there like, because the culture was there, but it wasn't like sustained.
Yeah.
And they're acting like, I'm like, man, Marshall County, Lewisburg, the town of Lewisburg just beat us. We got a Dollar General and a post office. And you're celebrating like you know, that fueled us. I remember going to that locker room at night like, man, they just acted like, and we ended up putting them out in region semis.
Yeah.
That we were at Marshall County that year. It's probably my favorite story of that entire year. It's a big game. We got to dodge Noblesville in a tournament. They were really good. We didn't match up well with them, and we need to beat Marshall to get the number 1 seed. And it was towards the end of the game, and I don't know what happened, but it involved Jack Bailey. And Jack didn't back down from anybody, and they caught a technical on them late.
Yeah.
So somebody shooting technicals was probably Will.
Yeah, it was.
Jack is standing at half court, and one of the parents comes to the end line and is mouthing with Jack. Ralph comes out of the stands. I look at Robbie and I said, hey, game's over. It's like 3 seconds left. We just got to get it in, and we've won. We're up 4 or 5. And I said, Robbie, call timeout. Just tell them, as soon as that horn, let's get to the locker room. It's pretty rough in there at this point. And so call timeout, tell them. I don't even think we shook hands. I think him and Levon kind of agreed, let's don't. It's pretty rough in here. So, you got to run across their fans to get to the locker room over there. And so me and Steve hang back, and we're going to make sure all our kids get in the locker room, managers. And as we're walking to the locker room, that same parent is blocking the way for me and Steve to get to the locker room. He's going to have his say. So I don't try to dodge you. I'm going chest to chest with him, see what he has to say. So I'm walking right at him, and he looks at me and he says, man, y'all got away with a lot of stuff tonight. And I said, yeah, like a W. And I just walked on by the guy, and he didn't know what to say at that point. Steve just kind of looked at him. We just split him at that time and went on. But, the crazy thing is, we played them in the region semis. We're worried to death this thing's going to get bad. That was the nicest. Man, they hugged every player we had that night after that. The sportsmanship was unbelievable. And I thought, man, Levon King does a great job with that team. It just got emotional over there that night, and sometimes that happens. It just gets emotional. Everybody gets out of there. I've seen y'all both get so, you can't speak to you. You're so upset, and
you get tore up.
Yeah, you just get tore up, and you want to fight or you want to do something. And, man, when you take a deep breath, you're all right. And that's going to happen.
For sure.
So, anyway.
Heck yeah. You got any more questions?
I do. I got one more.
All right,
I got one more. Greatest girls basketball team of all time, greatest boys basketball team of all time. Doesn't have anything to do with accolades, nothing like
Qualifiers. Oh, man, you're going to get me in trouble with your sister, man. But honestly.
Me personally, I'm taking the other group over them. I'm taking that 16 group over them.
Okay. And I do too. I mean, but here's the deal.
The matchup's terrible for Haley and them.
Here's the thing about the 16 team. That district, there was 8 teams in it.
Yeah.
4's ranked in the top 10 in the state of Tennessee. Eagleville, Moore County, Chapel Hill, and us are ranked.
Mm-hmm.
That region, the stinking Houston County, is in the top 4 of the state tournament.
And you got Miss Basketball.
And a kid that goes to UT Martin, Boggs, could not. She's a hammer. They got another 6'2" post player. Last name Snow. Abby Dew. The path to the state tournament was rocky. We got to play McKenzie, who's got a kid's averaging 34 at McKenzie in a region semis. We got to play Eagleville, first round of the district tournament, who's ranked 10th in the state. So Uh, that team was special. They were mean, and the one thing about that team that they were going to put up 65 to 70 every night.
Yeah.
Every night. Because this team here was probably better defensively because we got 2 5s on the floor. We
Yeah.
can't guard you 4. We can't guard you 3. Now we can pressure you because we got the 2 fastest kids in America. But this team probably did a better job matching up. But if you said what's the best team community's ever had in my life, I got to go 2016.
I would agree.
And kudos to 2023 team to completing the same amount of success as that team did. So
it's like a 1A, 1B type thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm definitely
like you said, it's hard to
personally.
compare team to team, but and I don't want to tick off this year's team because there's an argument, in my opinion, the 2 best players we've ever had is Pierce and MJ.
Yeah.
There are only 2 2,000-point scorers, and we could argue all night. Who would you take first?
Yeah. 2 totally different players.
Yeah. Who you take first? You can't go wrong either way.
Yeah. For sure.
But it's just going to be half. Who do you want? You want a 4 or you want a 1?
Yeah.
And I don't want to make that decision.
I like both of them. Give me both of them.
You give me both of them, I'm winning the state tournament.
Yeah, give me
You know
both
what
of
I'm saying? We've played these games where, all right, we're going to have a draft. You know, top 5 Vikings of all time, top 10 Vikings of all time. And that's fun to do.
Yeah.
But
that's a rough one because you get into because my top 10 of boys and girls would be all just recent players.
Yeah.
Because I don't know any of the ones that were before me, and so I'd have about half 2016, and then I'd probably throw in the Farrell girl for that couple of years because how good
that
she
one
was.
Year she won the MVP of the district.
Yeah, she was nasty.
Yeah. The greatest boys team. See, this is a great argument. I honestly believe the best basketball team that we had, talent-wise, is either 2020, Pride, you, Will, Tyrese, Jack Bailey's on the bench, Evan Petrie, and I know I'm missing somebody who our other guards were. Talent-wise, it's them or 89. 89 was, and I'm old enough to remember 89 with Troy and Scott and Troy Harrison and Jason Blackburn. That was a squad.
Even Robbie said that. Robbie said 89 was pretty good.
But basketball's so different. Like 89, if you didn't get 3 stitches, you didn't foul out. I mean, that was the difference in physicality in basketball. Yeah. And everybody played in cracker boxes. They wasn't these big, nice gyms and smaller courts, and it was physical. And everybody had volleyball shorts on, and you went and played. And then, honorable mention is 2021.
Yeah.
And the argument is, well, they're the greatest team ever because they took us there. Talent-wise, no. As far as played as a team, they might be the best team I've ever watched. They play as a team as well as anybody ever. But, man, I lean towards 2020 just because Pride was an absolute monster. You got Cord on the other side who's 6 whatever.
Yeah.
You, Will, Tyrese is your starting 5, and then you got Pope coming off the bench who could shoot it. Now you got Jack Bailey who didn't even get to play his junior year. The dude's all state anywhere else.
Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, Jack and Evan both score 1,000 points at any other school.
Oh yeah.
But they're not gonna get to here.
They're the 2 best players on any other team that they go to.
They're not. There's not enough basketballs.
Yeah.
To get another thing. That's like Davy Barnes and the Twins. They're gonna score 1,000 somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you had Aaron, Lacey, Sarah Pierce, 2,000, 1,000, 1,000. Those combining for no telling how much. And so Jack and Evan are 1,000-point scorers on that team that are getting sparingly minutes.
Yeah.
So if you said you got to write it down, I'd say 2020 boys and 16 girls would be my pick.
That's the crazy thing about that 2020 team. You look at the roster, you had 1,000 point, 1,000 point, 1,000 point, 1,000 point. You had 5,000 point scores.
Yeah, because Strat
got 1,000.
Will,
you,
Kobe,
Cord. All 5 of them. They had 5,000 points.
5,000 points.
And then Jack ended with like 800 and something.
And that's what I'm saying. He's a 1,000-point scorer. Petrie, his senior year, there's games he carried us. He had 30 against Marshall County one night.
I think it was Magnet or either the Magnet game or that Marshall County game where he goes for like 32.
And it might have been Magnet.
And it was the most beautiful post game.
Yeah.
I'm catching, and it's up and unders, it's baby hooks, it's
And that's a guy that
offensive
can't get on the
rebounds.
floor his junior year because Jack Bailey's coming off record, and you don't want Kobe off the floor.
Yeah.
And man, that speaks a lot to him and his family. Don't get mad and tore up about it.
Never
You know
got
what I
mad.
mean? That-
Never got mad about it.
And boy, that's a lesson all through. Sometimes you just get in a good group.
Yeah.
I said to those middle school kids, I got 3 kids on my bench that's not getting to play. All those 7th graders, that could start for most kids in our district. But man, you can't get on the floor with this squad. But don't leave this squad to go
Yeah, no.
and have to compete against this bunch. Win it.
Yeah.
So 16, you had Sarah, Lacey, Aaron with 1,000-point scores, and then I don't know, was
AK got 1,000.
AK ends up with 1,000?
Yeah, she was on that. She was on the end of that.
So there's 4 there, and then you had a bunch that was close. I'm sure Kizzy was getting close. Gracie Simmons was on that squad that had a ton. And then you get to this group with MJ and Haley. Did we miss? Is there any other ones between those two?
I don't think.
I've got, crazy enough, just to show you how much I love Union. At work, I've got the 1,000-point boys list and girls list on my cork board at work every day. They're just there.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is I want to get a banner in the gym with 1,000-point scores on it, and of course MJ and Sarah's being a little bigger than everybody else. It's 2,000.
Over on the side.
And recognize that. MTCS has got one. I think that's something. Man, that's an achievement to score 1,000.
The biggest complaint I've ever had about us is we don't have any Mr. or Miss basketball finalists when we've had plenty of kids that should have gotten.
Don't get me started.
Pierce
If Pierce and MJ's not Miss Basketball finalists,
Kobe
Pride's not a basketball finalist. Will Reed is senior year, MVP of the district and region, and you can't
All State.
don't get a mention. We've only got 4 now. We've had 4 All-State tournament kids, and none of them. So MJ this year, Sarah, Lacey, and Will, and none of them have been nominees. And you go to MTCS and they've got them. Eagles got them. Now Riley McLaren deserved it, but my point is, Sarah Pierce was top 5 in the state of Tennessee. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
The kid that got nominated was from our district. She wasn't even the MVP of her district.
She wasn't even best player on that team.
No. And she gets nominated Miss Basketball, and Pierce don't. Don't get me started. You got me started. But you're right. We need a nominee. I don't know who it's going to be.
Just like
It's so political.
Yeah.
It's what coach knows, what coach, what no. It has nothing.
Darian Pride never gets a football, a baseball. Dylan Norris is All-State first team.
Leads the state in home runs at one point.
Doesn't even get a mention in Mr. Baseball finalist. Nothing. I mean, we've had, not to say we've had guys that should win it, but at least a mention or something.
Yes.
Where it's like we've had plenty of good athletes that have had really good years. Kobe's numbers compared to the guy who won Mr. Basketball, identical.
Yeah.
And we had a better record.
And
And ranked higher.
I think one of the things that probably hurts me as worse as anything is the 2020 team got less opportunities than any class in the history of sports. Because when 16 went to state tournament and this year, you go to the state tournament, you hang 20 or you hang 10 or 12 and you play well, college coaches are coming to the locker room. And you're not going to be able to come up those steps and somebody's going to say, hey, coach, where's 10 going? Where's 13 going? Where's 24? Has Mitchell committed? It's every time. You go up in that little coach's tent and they hammer you.
Yeah.
With Lacey and Sarah, we couldn't get out of the lock. They were hand to heaven lined up out there, and it'd be like, hey, I'm with Cumberland. Can we talk to number 40? And the great thing was they didn't know I was her dad, so I would just, I'd be like, yes, she'll be out in a minute. 2020, you got the 250 ticket limit. There's no coaches in there.
Yeah.
None of those kids got an offer. None of them got a text message. None. Will goes for 25. Not a text message from a JUCO. Nothing. Nowhere.
Yeah.
And somebody had told NFHS that he had committed to play baseball at Rome State. I don't know if that stopped some of it or not. But regardless, as great as it was that they got to have a season and we got to go to state tournament, it's still you look back and say, man, Jack Bailey could have helped somebody.
Yeah.
Jack Bailey
For sure.
could have boarded. You could have went somewhere. I've seen a lot of college basketball games, NAIA level, when I was following Lacey, and man, Will could have played there. You could have played there. It's sad, man.
Yeah.
And thank goodness Kobe got his shot, and Kobe's doing well. But all's well, and we were blessed and all that. But 2020, as great a year it was the weirdest year of all time.
For
you know?
sure. Yeah, that's all I got.
Man, how long is y'all's usually last?
About
That's a
an
good
hour.
question.
We got every bit of that.
Did we? What is it? How long's it been?
I don't know, but it's 3:12 now.
3:12. Gee.
Yeah,
we're
that
going
was
up.
episode 2 with Dan Reed.
So do you
Heck yeah.
cut and splice? Is that what you do?
Sometimes.
Or you just let it go live?
We just
Oh no, not live. Dear Lord, not live.